everyone. My name is Stefanie Mueller, and I'm an associate professor at MIT CSAIL. And I'm super excited to share with you today the research from my lab about how we can give physical objects digital capabilities. So I'm sure you all have your own experiences in how computing has changed how we do everything today. And let me give you one example from the area of research that I'm doing. So I work a lot in product design and manufacturing. If you think about it, if you have a digital 3D editor and we want to change the color of this car, it's super easy in digital. We just load the car 3D model of our product. We click one button in the 3D editor to change the color, and then suddenly the color of the car has changed in the virtual world. Now in physical, I'm sure you all agree with me, it's not quite that simple. So if you want to change the color of your physical car, right, you can't just do this with one mouse click. You have to give it to a garage. They will spend hours repainting your car. It's going to be very expensive and time consuming to do. So that's definitely not something you will do like multiple times in a minute, just changing the color of your own car. That's not going to happen because in physical, it's very hard. So in the research that I do with my lab, we ask ourselves the question, what if we can give physical objects digital capabilities so that, for instance, changing the color of the car in physical is as easy as we can do this in digital already today. So what I want to do today is to give you one example of how we can give such digital capabilities to physical objects at the example of reprogrammable appearances. So let me get started on this. Here's one of our research projects. We invented a smart material that we can spray onto any type of object. And then if we expose this object to light from a projector, we can reprogram its appearance. So here, for instance, you can see how we can change the color of a 3D printed chameleon or a phone case. We can also change the color, for instance, of a shoe. Imagine how cool it would be if every day before you go out, you can simply download a new pattern from an app and you can apply it to your shoe. And we can also, for instance, change the color of a car. This here is only a miniature car as an example, but you can imagine, for instance, car sharing applications where, depending on the customer, the car could update its appearance to make it more attractive for multiple people to use the same car in a garage. So here you can see this again one more time, just to show you how advanced the technology already is. So this is the same phone case that you can see in each of these images. And we simply reprogram the appearance by downloading an image that we liked, and then hitting a button in our editor to transfer this digital pattern onto the physical object. So you can almost imagine something like this as like a photo printer. You can simply hit a button, and by some light reaction, the texture is transferred. The same here, you can see the two shoe patterns. And again, maybe in the future, business will actually only sell plain products. So imagine a company in the future will just sell you a plain shoe, maybe even give it away for free to you. And then they will actually, you will download an app on your phone, and you will pay for the patterns that you download on a daily basis. So it's almost like a subscription model that you already know from music or from movies, where you pay maybe a monthly fee and then you can download as much content as you like. So this will definitely change complete industries in the future. I already showed you the car. Again, this can help with environmental friendly solutions, for instance, by encouraging people to share a single car among multiple people. And we also have upcoming work that applies this to textiles. So you can imagine, rather than having the same shirt in 10 different colors, you will in the future just have like a few plain shirts and you can download any pattern you like. And this is not only limited to small individual products, but we can also apply this, for instance, as a wall paint to walls and then reprogram the appearance of entire rooms. So you could imagine something like a restaurant business where in the future, depending on the customer, they can reprogram the restaurant walls depending on the event that they are hosting. Or similarly, maybe in the future, when you leave from work, you will select a pattern of how you would like your living room to look like when you come home. And then once you enter the door at home, your living room will already be reprogrammed in its appearance, depending on what you like for the evening. So these are all like really exciting opportunities that we see for this work, but I also want to share how does this technology actually work with you. So how does this work? Let me explain to you the working principle behind it. So what we use as materials is something that is called a photochromic dye. So these dyes are by default transparent, but if you shine some UV light on them, they switch from transparent to being colored, as you can see here. Now this color remains, as you can see, until you shine light of a different wavelength on it, which then turns the color back to transparent. So you can almost envision this a little bit as e-ink, where you apply a current which switches the e-ink from white to black. Here, this is a similar principle, but it is based on light, where the material transitions from transparent to being a color after exposure to certain light wavelengths. So this process is fully repeatable, as you can see here. So we can always go from transparent to being colored back to transparent, which allows us to reprogram these materials as we need for the next color texture. So one big limitation of these materials today is that you can really only go from transparent to a single color. So as you can see here, there's one material in the left bottle, which goes from transparent to cyan. The middle bottle goes from transparent to magenta, and the right bottle goes from transparent to yellow. So what that means is that this technology so far has only been used to make single color images. And the invention from my lab is to actually allow for high resolution multicolor images. And I will show you the trick behind this in the next few minutes. So how can we achieve multiple colors? So the trick here that we use is that we get a cyan, magenta, and a yellow photochromic dye, and we mix them together into a single bottle. So as you would expect from the CMY color model that you can see on the right side on the slide here is, if you mix cyan, magenta, and yellow together, you actually get black. This is probably familiar to you from your inkjet printer, where you load a CMY color cartridge into your printer, and when you print out a photo or something else on your printer, it mixes these colors together to create a photo with lots of different color ranges. So now that we have these three materials mixed together in a single bottle black, the question is still, how can we actually create all of these different colors? So here, for instance, you can see, just to show you that this actually works, is that if you have the black bottle at the beginning and we deactivate, for instance, the cyan in the bottle, we get red. So as you can see, once the cyan is transparent, magenta and yellow remain as the only colors, and by mixing magenta and yellow, you receive red. The same if, for instance, the magenta is made transparent, only the cyan and the yellow would remain in the solution, which gives you green. So basically what we do is we take this bottle with the CMY mixture, which is black, and we selectively turn either the cyan, magenta, or the yellow channel transparent up to a certain degree to achieve the different colors. So this is how on the right side, you can have the single bottle with the single liquid, but the liquid can turn into all these different color shades. So now the question remains, how can we actually turn, for instance, only the cyan in this bottle transparent, or only the yellow, or only the magenta? So this is a little more complicated, but I hope you can follow along. So here you see a wavelength chart for the different photochromic dyes in the single bottle. So you see there's a curve for cyan, a curve for magenta, and a curve for yellow. And again, all of these different dyes are in the single bottle resulting in black. So on the bottom, you see the wavelengths that each of these dyes has the highest absorption and where it actually turns transparent. So what you can see here is, if let's say we want to turn only the cyan transparent in the bottle, we should have a light source that shines light at roughly a wavelength of 640 nanometers. Now, let's say if you wanted to turn it magenta transparent, maybe we need a light source roughly there. And if you want to turn the yellow transparent, we need a light source more where it says light source 3, around 420 nanometers. As you can see, there's no perfect distinction between those colors. So what we also have is like a optimization algorithm to optimize for these trade-offs, but that goes a little far for today. So I will just give you the basic working principle. So the question now is, where can we get these 3 different light sources from? And we're actually very lucky, because if you look at a normal DLP projector, so these are the projectors that we use to project slides in a physical meeting, they actually already have 3 different light sources integrated. They have a RGB LED. So by having these red, green, and blue LEDs, we actually get very lucky in this case, and they are exactly at those wavelengths where we need them. So as you can see again in this wavelength chart, if we wanted to make the cyan transparent in the bottle, we just have to shine some red light on it. So if you took that black bottle and you just made a single slide in PowerPoint, for instance, that is completely red, and you projected a red slide onto this black bottle, the cyan would get transparent. And as we have looked here, seen here, if the cyan is transparent, only the magenta and yellow would remain. So you would get a red color in the bottle, simply by projecting some red light from your red PowerPoint slide. So I find this pretty magical, because the technology, the technology's background is actually very simple once you understand the working principle. So what you saw in the video at the beginning is basically that we take a projector and we project either red, green, or blue light on a pixel to transition it from black to the desired target color by turning selectively cyan, magenta, or yellow on the pixel off to a certain degree. So if I play this video one more time, you can see how the dark blue areas are first done being projected on, because going from black to a dark blue is really quick, versus the brighter areas where we have to transition from black to a yellow or an orange take more time to actually deactivate, because we have to remove more of the cyan, magenta, and yellow channels. So this is why in the end, to reprogram your object, all you have to do is to put your object into our projection system, and the object already has our smart material sprayed onto its surface, and then you project this light pattern on it to reprogram its appearance. So I also want to show you a bit about the material preparation, which again is relatively simple. So here are the things that we use at the moment for our examples. So what we first need are these photochromic dyes. You see them in the middle at the bottom, and we buy them from a company, so they are commercially available, and you can find more details if you go to our website and look at the research paper. Then what we need is also some automotive lacquer. We just use this as a means to dissolve the photochromic dyes. And then we simply have a mixer, and we mix everything together and put it in some vials. So you can see this here. We put the lacquer in, then we put the cyan photochromic dye in. We mix everything together. We repeat this for the magenta photochromic dye and also for the yellow photochromic dye. Now we have each of the dyes in the lacquer individually, and you can see here that they activate and change their color. And now we mix them together in a specific ratio to achieve a black dye, which is the one that we actually use then to spray on the objects and to achieve our different colors. So I also want to show what else we can do with this technology. After developing this multicolor high resolution technology, we use the same principle to improve in various different dimensions. So as you saw at the beginning, the color transfer for the multicolor texture still takes about 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the color spectrum in the texture that is transferred. So if you want to do product design and you want to quickly test something out, 20, 25 minutes is still a little while to wait. So we were wondering, can we make this faster? And we actually found a way to make fast grayscale previews in less than 60 seconds. So let me show you a video here again. And this is an empty phone case. And now we're going to project our grayscale texture on it. In this case here, it's this bird texture. And in less than 60 seconds, we will already have this physical example that we can now, for instance, show to a customer and ask them if this is what they want. Then we can erase it and reprogram the color pattern again. And again, as you can see here, the phone case was completely empty at the beginning. transferring a texture is really that fast. It just takes a few seconds and you're ready to show a physical product to your customer. Another area of research that we are currently working on is textiles. So on the left side, you see our current system, which is not super optimized for textiles. So you can see it consists of a platform where we put the object on. Here it's the chameleon. And then we have this RGB projector and the UV light source to induce the saturation of the color and the desaturation to achieve our color target. So now if you actually want to project on a t-shirt, it's not really optimal because your t-shirt has some wrinkles and people typically don't want to stand in front of the projector and like turn around until they have been projected on from all sides. So the setup is not really working for textiles. What we are doing instead now is we are trying to develop a fiber which has all of the light sources already integrated. So there's no need for projectors anymore. You see this on the right side. We have this fiber and we basically integrate really tiny, less than 1 millimeter LEDs, where we have the RGB LEDs integrated into the fiber, which is basically replacing the RGB projector. And then we also have a tiny UV LED integrated into the fiber, which replaces the UV light source. And then around the fiber, we apply our photochromic coating so that when the LEDs are turned on in specific lengths, the photochromic coating on the outside changes its color. So you see a first prototype of this here. On the left side, you see a first fiber prototype with a tiny PCB in it. And on this PCB, we are now placing very small LEDs. And on the right side, you see how our photochromic coating is already applied and already color changing based on the integrated LEDs. We also did some tests, and the UV light from the UV LED is not passing outside of the fiber because the photochromic coating absorbs all the UV light. So we hope this will also be safe to wear on the skin. There are, of course, many more exciting opportunities for reprogrammable appearances. So I showed you the example of the photochromic coating, but there are other technologies that we could also use. So I will show you 2 more projects that we have developed in the lab, just very briefly. And then if you're interested, you can go to our website and read more in the research papers. So we also developed reprogrammable appearances based on using polarizers and birefringent materials. So here you can see how this is working in action. And again, this is fully passive. There's no electronics inside. This is just based on optics and specific smart materials. Here you see a clock with a decorative pattern in the background. And again, the color change here is just based on some optics principles that work based on polarizers. This is a passive data visualization. Again, no electronics included. And this is a learning example for schools where if the teacher looks through the polarizer, they see the labels. If the student looks through the polarizer, they don't see the labels. So they can, show that they learned the content. Here's a completely different principle on reprogrammable appearances based on lenticular objects and lenticular lenses. You may know these flip cards that you can buy in shops, for instance, for like a birthday card or Christmas card that shows different images when you slightly tilt them. This is the same principle, but applied to 3D printed objects. And again, it is fully passive. So here, for instance, you see an earpod case that when the user drops it on the floor, it flickers so the user can actually notice that they lost it and pick it up right away. Here's another example of how we can apply these lenticular lenses at the example of a kettlebell. So if the user is holding the kettlebell at the right height, it shows a check mark. If they hold it too low, it shows a downwards arrow. And if they hold it too high, it shows an upwards arrow. You can see this here one more time, upwards arrow, check mark, and downwards arrow. And of course, the resolution for 3D printing is still pretty limited, but I find it kind of impressive that we can already 3D print lenses and full color patterns today. And I hope that in the future, the 3D printing resolution will improve just as well as the digital resolution of our displays. Here's one more example. This is a night lamp that shows good day when you lay down in bed. And when you get up in bed, it says, oh no, when you lay down in bed, it says good night. And when you get up in bed, it says good day. And again, this is fully passive and just based on the viewing angle and some optics principles. And here's a final example that one of my students made, and which I find really entertaining. This is a shoe that shows cheer up when you look down on it. And if you look from the side, you actually don't see this message. So only the person wearing the shoe sees this cheerful message, and everybody else just sees a professional gray shoe from the side. So let me sum up my talk. So I started by saying it would be so great if you could actually give physical objects digital capabilities. And I started with this example of changing, for instance, the color of a digital car versus a physical car, right? And physical things are still so much harder than in digital. So what if you could actually give physical objects digital capabilities? And this obviously is very ambitious, and I don't claim that we are there today, but I hope I was able to show you today that there are ways that we can actually provide such digital capabilities to physical objects. So I showed you our project on reprogrammable appearances, and I showed you how we can, for instance, change the texture of this car here in just 20 to 30 minutes and reprogram the appearance completely. Here you can see this one more time as a video. And I told you how easy this actually is by simply mixing a smart material from commercially available dyes and then projecting a light pattern on it with a regular office projector. So this is all off-the-shelf hardware and basically ready to be used today. And I also talked about the vision that maybe in the future, analog business that only sell physical products today, they actually sell digital products in the future. So maybe your shoe company will in the future only provide a plain shoe to the customer, maybe even give it away for free. And then through a subscription in a digital app, users will be able to download patterns on a monthly basis and update their products as they go along and trends change. The same for shoes or phone cases, and I'm sure you can envision many more products where this principle could be applied. So with this, I want to wrap up my talk. I hope you enjoyed seeing these projects. And I also want to thank all of my students who are implementing all of the different projects and who are contributing all of these amazing ideas and their technical knowledge. So with this, I want to thank everyone for being here today. And if you have any questions, just Google my name and you can find the research papers on our website. And if you have more questions, you can always send me an email. Thank you for being here, and I hope to see you soon.